Israel is intensifying its attacks on Gaza more than 6 weeks into a U.S.-brokered ceasefire with Hamas aimed at ending their 2-year war. CBC News has analyzed data provided by Gaza's health ministry. It shows more than 340 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli fire and nearly 900 others injured since the truce took effect. Meanwhile, heavy rain and cooler temperatures are making everyday life even more miserable for hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians. And aid groups operating on the ground there are sounding the alarm. The CBC's Tom Perry is on this story for us from Jerusalem. So, Tom, you've been speaking with aid groups working in Gaza. Tell us more about those discussions.
That's right, and I've been asking them about really two of the basic necessities of life in Gaza, food and shelter. What we've been seeing in Gaza this week and before, heavy rains coming down, flooding out areas where people have been sheltering in tents, underneath tarps, and we've been seeing images of people just trying to clear water, trying to dry out their belongings, and it just gives you an idea of just the misery that a lot of people are living in. About 80% or more of buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed in the war, over 90% of residential buildings. That's according to the UN. So you've got a lot of people living in very precarious conditions. Now, I did speak to Rachel Cummings from Save the Children about all these people who have been living in these makeshift shelters. Here's some of what she told me.
It's really a desperate, desperate situation. And, you know, parents have shared with us how deeply upsetting it is for their children to be crying because of the cold, because of the wet. And there is nothing for them to do to support their children in the most desperate of times.
Now, she told me about the need for more shelter, for more tents to be brought in. And I was just speaking a little while ago to the head of a group, or a person from a group that's really been overseeing some of the efforts to bring in tents and tarps and things like that. They told me that so far since the ceasefire, they've been able to bring in about 14,000. The UN's been able to bring in about 14,000 tents, about 300,000 tarps. Other groups and countries have brought in about 30,000 tents, another 22,000 tarps. So there is stuff getting in, but the message from these aid groups is that so much more is needed because the needs in Gaza are just so great.
And you've spoke to a couple of aid groups because you also got a chance to speak with the World Food Program. Tell us more about their concerns.
Yeah, I spoke today to Martin Penner from the World Food Program, so shelter and food. He was saying that they've been able to bring in roughly 2/3 of what they'd hoped to bring in to Gaza to help people with this food aid. There are aid trucks getting in. There's also commercial goods getting in. I was just looking at some images coming out of Gaza from today of some markets that have reopened that are stocked with fresh fruit and vegetables. The trouble is, so many people in Gaza just don't have the means to afford that. Now, here's what Martin Penner from the World Food Program told me about that. Here's some of what he had to say today.
It is good that commercial food supplies are getting in, obviously. And if you go to markets, you can see fruit and vegetables, which are very, very important. Obviously, the problem is that people in Gaza, they've been through a war of 2 years. Most of them don't have jobs, don't have incomes. So that food that you can see, most people can't afford to buy it.
So the message from the World Food Program is that full markets don't mean full stomachs. And so, as I mentioned, he'd said that they've been able to get in about 2/3 of the food aid that they were hoping to bring in. He's urging the Israeli government to open all crossings into Gaza. Right now, you've got you got 3 crossings into Gaza, 2 in the south, 1 in the north, where aid is getting in. He's urging, and this is something we've heard before, he's urging the Israeli government to open up all these points of entry into Gaza so that more food can get in. Now, the Israeli government says that aid is getting in unimpeded. That's their words, into Gaza. But we heard from the International Red Cross today saying that the level of aid getting in is still far too low. And so they too are saying that more has to be done, more aid has to get in, more shelters have to be built, just to really help the people of Gaza who are still suffering really terribly.
Thank you for this. That is the CBC's Tom Perry in Jerusalem.